Today we're going to show you a simple and easy way to make a distributor for your model engines, and all it takes is just a couple of basic pieces of equipment and a couple of basic pieces of styrene. This project only requires two pieces of material. The first thing is just a basic black coffee stirrer, and then a spool of the winding wire. And if you don't have this, you can use really any fine gauge wire. You're going to take about 2 feet or so of this and cut it off. And then you're going to take that wire, you're going to fold it in half to make 2 pieces, and then fold it in half again to make 4, and then fold it in half a third time to make what looks like 8 wires. And when you're finished, you should wind up with pieces that are about 4 inches or so long. This engine would have had a 9th wire for the coil, and so what I did was you'll just take another piece about 4 inches long or so and snip it off, and we're going to add that to it. So what you do, once you have your wires bent into what looks like 8 pieces, and then you add that 9th piece if it's necessary, is just take the end of it, choose one side, and you're just going to take the end of it and just kind of twist it a few times and get that good. And then take your 9th wire if you're using it, and you're just going to add that in and just twist that onto the end as well. Once you're finished, take your cutters and just snip that end off. Once you're finished with that, you'll need to take your straw and or your coffee stirrer. You're going to need to determine what the thickness is. In my case, it's 7/64, and so I'm going to use my large pin vise and my 7/64 pin, which actually looks a lot more just like a drill bit. And I'm going to take that and run that through into the engine where the distributor would normally be done, and just run that all the way through. I've already done it, and when I'm finished, it actually has quite a large hole there. And obviously that's nowhere near to scale for what this is, but this is, we're not looking for 100% scale accuracy here. We're just looking for something that's easy to do, and so this is going to work. So when you're finished, you're able to take your straw or your coffee stirrer, and it should slide easily into the engine and stay in there with a little bit of tension. In your case, it may be a little bit loose, not a problem. You're going to put a little bit of glue in there anyway to hold it in place. The next thing that you're going to want to do is find the distributor on your sprue. Take your coffee stirrer and just kind of line it up and look to see about how big it would look to match yours. In my case, the straw is almost perfectly the same size as the top of the distributor cap, so this is going to work pretty well. But you'll take that, look to see about how long it should be, and so I'm going to take my straw, I'm going to take that 1/4 of an inch, plus I'm going to use about another 1/4 of an inch, and I'm just going to slice that off on my little workbench here. And so when I'm finished, I have just that little piece of straw. Okay, so we'll take that. We're going to use our Tamiya extra thin cement. We're just going to kind of paint the inside of the engine where we've made that hole, and I'm going to be a little bit liberal with the glue here. And then we're going to take our straw, and you should also check to make sure that when you made your cut that you made it nice and straight. Pick the side of your cut that looks better, make sure that side is facing up, and then just take that and just slide it on into the engine. And you're going to have to work kind of quickly with this because the Tamiya cement dries very, very quickly. And let's see, mine actually took a second and then just popped in, so I'm going to have to pull that back out a little bit and make sure that you're lined up to about where the correct thickness of the distributor would be. And I'll just kind of hold the distributor up against it to see if we're right. and it looks like I'm just about perfect right there, taking into account the distributor cap and the distributor body, because I'll take my paintbrush at the end and I'll kind of paint the bottom to match the aluminum base. Once you have your wires twisted and ready to go, just use your two-part epoxy, or perhaps you can use super glue. Depends on your wire. Depends on the type of plastic that your straw is made out of. Sometimes the super glue will bond really quickly, sometimes it takes forever to bond. In my case, I found out that the super glue, which normally works on many of the things that I do like this, just wasn't drying. And so I decided to get the two-part epoxy out, and I just used just literally a drop of each, mixed them together. I cut the end of the wire off that I had put the super glue on, retwisted them, and then just put some epoxy right on the wire itself, slid it in, and this is 5-minute fast set epoxy. So in 15-20 minutes from now, this will be dry and hard as a rock, ready for me to move on with the next step of the project. There you have it. You've got a wired distributor, and it only took about 2 or 3 minutes to do it. Once you're finished, you can snip the wires at the top, and you'll have all 8 strands plus the 9th strand for your coil wire if that's necessary, and you can use that to wire your engine. You've got about 4 inches of length of wire, and that gives you plenty to work with for routing them in whichever direction you want to have. Well, here's the finished project. The wires are all put in where they need to go. The coil has been installed. And I've also taken the time to put some vacuum lines and some fuel lines in. That black one sticking up will go to the power brake booster. And there's a vent line, and then the fuel line going from the carburetor on down into the fuel pump. That's been epoxied in. Spark plug wires, I just used some black paint to paint on the boots. A lot of guys will use extra tubing and slide it on. I don't like to do that. It seems like a lot of extra work to me. So that's what we've got. Stay tuned for the next installment on the Nova police car for the law enforcement community build that I'm hosting. And until next time, this is Ken. Rate us, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. We'll talk to you later.